Welcome to the Wayne Bennett Podcast, celebrating West Virginia's people, places, and the culture of Southern Appalachia. Now here's your host, Wayne Bennett.
Welcome to Wayne Bennett's podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Bennett. This is episode 140, and it's June the 7th, 2024. Our guest today is a former coach, a businessman, a teacher, real estate mogul, musician, and a world-class golfer, Jerry Zaferatos. Welcome, Jerry.
Good morning, Wayne.
Now, tell me a little bit about your dad and mom. I know your dad came over here from Greece. He was in the Navy, wasn't he?
He was in the Greek Navy. I had unique parents. My dad was from Kefalonia, Greece. That's probably the next to the last little island off of Greece. And my mother was from the hills of Summers County.
She was a Buckland, right?
She was a Buckland. She was the daughter of a coal miner and basically a thug for the union mine workers. He was kind of like an enforcer back in his younger days. And my dad's parents were olive growers. They had olive orchards and fig orchards in Greece. That's what they did. He had 12 brothers and sisters, and my mom had 5 siblings in her family. And my mother lived they moved from Summers County down to the river down in Terry. They lived way back up in the woods. And then my dad, like I said, it was like country. His island was just like West Virginia. It was just country type of atmosphere. And after his second year, he completed his 2-year tour with the Navy because they made him all go into some type of service. And he was working on a merchant ship after he got out of the Navy, and they were docked in Boston. And they got leave to go downtown and stuff. And my dad never went back to the boat. And Sarandon, the movie star's dad, and a bunch of these Greeks went and got him. My dad was hiding under a wooden sidewalk. And he heard these Greeks talking, and he come out of there, and he had my uncle's number, who all of our uncles owned fruit markets on the bypass. And they went up there and got my dad and brought him down, and he wasn't here 30 days and got busted by the immigration. And I'm a true immigration baby. I got brothers 12 and 14 years younger than me, and my parents were married 67 years, and she couldn't speak Greek, and he couldn't speak English. And they made it.
Wait a minute. How did they get?
The fruit market. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
She was working for my uncle at the fruit market.
Okay.
She'd quit high school. I guess she would have been a senior. And she quit school and just started working.
What was the name of the market? Do you remember?
It's where the lawnmower shop is now. It was
yeah.
L&B and Bypass Supermarket.
Okay.
It was called the Bypass Supermarket. And then as you came toward the intersection going to the hospital, that was another uncle.
Margie's used to be.
No, Margie's was up above us.
Okay.
That was the other family. And then my wife Kathy's uncle had Johnny Dollar right up above it.
Yeah. Now, your dad was washing dishes at Swan Cafe?
My dad was washing dishes at Swan Cafe, and the Greeks owned it. Mr. Gaglis. Boy, I can't remember the other two.
Wasn't that called the Black Swan Cafe at one time?
It was just called
just
Swan.
Always been
it was
Swan
always
Cafe.
a Swan Cafe. It had a big round window. And my dad was head dishwasher, and then they started teaching him to do short order cooks and how to make different things. They made everything at the restaurant, their dressings and bread, everything. And my mother was working at Leeds Discount on Prince Street for Mr. Haddad. We lived above the water company. We lived in the apartment right above the water company downtown. She came home one evening, and my dad had bought the restaurant. Mr. Sarandon was, I guess, president of the United Bank, the board there. And my dad went and signed his X on his, because he couldn't write his name.
Wow.
And
so how old were you when you moved out of above this water company? You moved over on Foster Avenue, didn't you?
After, I guess I was in about the 2nd grade, because I remember tutors would come by and try to teach my dad to speak English. And I was in about the 2nd grade because I was having problems too at school. Like, instead of saying gun smoke, we'd say smoke gun. We'd say things backwards. And I remember that as a kid. But it was in about the second grade, and my mom sat down one evening at the restaurant and said, "Hey, we just bought a house. We're moving down on Foster Avenue." It was still close to work. If they didn't walk, my dad would ride a bike. And as I got older, I'd help open up the restaurant in the mornings with him at 6, and I'd ride on the back of the bike. My dad would, that's how we got to work. My dad never got his driver's license because he was always afraid that if he did something, they'd send him back to the old country.
Yeah, yeah.
And then in 1967, Mr. Cook from Oceana, he was always coming to Beckley, and he gave him a good deal on a Galaxy, 500 Ford Galaxy, and they bought their first car in 1967.
Of course, you remember some of the characters downtown. Well, I call them characters, and I mean that affectionately.
I can tell you some stories you wouldn't believe, and only people would know it. They're dead now. But I used to stand out every morning because we opened up at 6 o'clock. And Mr. Stansberry, who the Stansberry tennis courts on Yard Avenue are named after him, he was always on time at 6 o'clock. So we'd have to be there early. But I would stand outside and guard a parking space. That's where you had parking meters on both sides of the street, and you had two-way traffic. And I'd hold a spot for Virgil's newsstand. Him and his wife would come to work, and I'd stand out there and guard their parking meter for him. And he'd give me a bag of popcorn after school for holding his parking space. Mr. Barker's Jewelry. He used to take all the guys in the neighborhood. All of us kind of lived downtown. He'd take us to Flat Top Lake. He just had a lot, but he'd take us swimming. I mean, you had Freddy's. We had Piggly Wiggly, which my dad used to drive them crazy. Later on in their careers, they rented from the governor, Hewlett Smith. Well, they would eat there. The mayor ate at our place all the time too, McCullough. But Governor Smith's wife absolutely loved my dad, man. She's always trying to get his bread recipe. And my dad was an avid farmer. He loved farming. And they didn't give, they let him use, I guess there's about 4 acres of land up behind the mansion. There's restaurants and stuff in there now. He would have Bruce McDaniels' brother-in-law. I don't remember Sam's last name. Shrewsbury. He would come over with big tractors and till it up and disc it. And then my dad had a 7-horsepower tiller. We'd raise potatoes, tomatoes, green beans, you name it. And then we'd sell fresh vegetables at the restaurant, but we'd sell corn. And that used to drive the guy, Piggly Wiggly, crazy, Ralph, because he would sell a dozen ears of corn for 50 cents. Silver Queen was his big thing. And so we're selling produce outside the restaurant, making fresh vegetables inside the restaurant. Blue Plate Special is what they called it. You got 3 vegetables, a roll, butter, and a drink for 98 cents. I still remember, just like yesterday. And but they farmed that. They had a little trailer that they would pull with that Ford Galaxy, bring all this produce in, and then Hewlett got it where we would sell beans and potatoes. I can't tell you how many potatoes we harvested out of that place. We'd sell it to the Beckley Hospital. We'd sell them fresh vegetables.
That was time you had the Parker boy that was on crutches, delivered papers all the time.
Oh, that was great. That was something else. Now, I've got a story to tell you about that. Mel Hancock practically raised all of us downtown at the Y. Matter of fact, Mel was a big part of our business, too, because he just took a liking to us, and especially me, and got me involved in a lot of things, boards and different things like that would help us in our business. But after school, before we'd go to the Y was uptown, we'd go down to the newspaper office, and there's a little basement down there, and there was a short lady there. I can't remember her name now. She may still be alive. I know she was alive when we had Calacino's because she'd come in, and she remembered me. We would get 10 newspapers, me, the Rubles, George Green and his brothers, quite a few of us, and Parker, and there was a guy they called Tojo.
Harry Rogers.
Tojo. And I would outrun him. I'd run straight to the courthouse because there was a Greek at the courthouse that was a cook for the for the jail, because the jail used to be up on the, and they would yell and call me names, man, but I'd beat them I didn't care. I'd beat them because I knew that I'd sell half of my newspapers in the courthouse building, because you had a Register and a Post-Herald. You had a Democrat paper and you had a Republican paper. And I would run up there and beat them. And then after we go back to the newspaper office, they'd keep 6 cents and give us 4 cents, because the newspaper was 10 cents. Then we'd go, there's a little gas station across from Leeds where Geno's used to be now. It's county parking lot. And we'd go buy potato chips and pop and then go to the Y.
Now, you remember the lady that was a Salvation Army lady, Mary Francisco?
Loved her. Came in every day at lunchtime in the restaurant. Exactly 12 o'clock every day. You know, we would, it was funny. I mean, politics, I've been in politics all my life as a kid. They'd pay me money to drive up and down the street with their signs on my bike and stuff. But the Democrats would eat on the left side of the restaurant in the banquet room, and the Republicans would eat on the right side. You had the Sayers brothers and that bunch on that side, and you'd have the Paynes on Ned Payne, Fred and Ted Stacy, all those guys. You know, it was funny. And my dad always had President Kennedy's picture hanging above the door to the kitchen, because he said that was our big break, because, you know, he was.
That's why you're still a Democrat today.
Yeah.
Now but
I help Republicans.
There was a little later, there was a couple people. Every time you went uptown, you'd see Chris Clifford. I don't know whether you remember Chris or not, but Chris was always around Murphy's. And then there was a guy that carried cameras all the time. They called him Shockey. I think he might have been a Hajash, but he was.
I'll think of his name here in a minute. Radar. I think they called him Radar. Yeah, he would come in and get a cup of coffee. He'd sit at the end of the counter, and always had he always wore a coat like, who was that movie star? Had a bad one eye. He was a detective.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Columbo.
And he had a jacket like that and that hat. You know, and my dad would always come back and say, "Be careful now, he's crazy. He's crazy."
Now, your family was pretty active in the St. Nicholas Church, weren't you? I mean, you were in a lot of the...
Yeah, my mom got out there and raised a lot of money for the church, helped cook and sell baklava. That was their big fundraiser. Plus, they used to have a big dinner.
You were in a Soya club?
I didn't get real involved in it, you know. I was kind of ornery.
I always tell somebody something they wouldn't expect, but you had a boxer named Westy?
One of the owners gave me a boxer. The boxer was bigger than me, and I think I won something in the Kids' Day Parade. That used to be really big.
You were a pumpkin. I remember that. You dressed up like a pumpkin.
Yeah. And then one year I had the dog with me. I just remembered I won a football. But that was big, you know, back then.
Now, you played Little League ball. You were on the Dodgers. Who was your coach?
He was a strong Republican. Him and Mike Gladwell, they were big Republicans, and I'd ride with them during campaign. They'd go pick up people and bring them in to vote. But it was Fraley. He had the Miller Lite business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he would give me rides to the ballpark. And, oh, God, that's a while back. As old Dave Stanton was on my team. I think Rick Sharp. Remember Rick Sharp? I think Rick was.
Yeah.
They were a little bit older than me, but.
Yeah. He was. But one thing, you were really active in the Boy Scouts.
I got involved in the Boy Scouts because all those guys ate at the restaurant. One of them was Albert Allen.
Albert Allen.
He was a fireman. Like the firemen and the police would come in our place all the time, and the guys that were on the beat, the policemen that were on the beat, my dad would give them free coffee in the mornings. And then, like, if there was fires downtown and stuff, we would take, you remember the old Coca-Cola crates that had the bottles in them? We'd fill those full of coffee and take them to the firemen, whoever fighting fires. And, you know, that's where we learned a lot of our tactics too. Instead of spending a lot of money on newspapers and stuff, we would go give food and drink to people. And I picked that up from my parents doing that.
Now, your parents sold that place, what, in 72?
My senior year, they sold it. I can't remember the guy's name. He was a hippie, which was a big back then. That was in the 70s. And he had a hippie shop. He sold real wild hippie clothes and things like that. And he walked in one day, my senior year in high school, and told my dad he'd like to buy it. My dad said, yeah. Because what was so funny, he was starting to complain. Burger Boy had just opened up. At that time, 1972, a cheeseburger with lettuce, tomato, and mayonnaise was 65 cents. And they were selling a hamburger for 15 cents. Yeah. And he goes, we're done. We can't compete with this. And so he went into painting business, which that's what he did in the Navy. He painted ships. And he'd hang off the ships and paint those big old ships.
When you were in the Scouts, how far did you reach?
I'm an Eagle Scout. I never received it, but I earned it. And I got into a little trouble. And I never got to receive my award, but I was an Eagle Scout.
Was the trouble on the motorcycle?
You know, I don't remember when I got arrested. We was all going to play football, and I had like 4 guys on a motorcycle, and the guy pulled over, and everybody ran. And
was Paul Hosman in that group?
I don't remember exactly what happened, but the scouting was a lot of fun back then. Every holiday we put flags. I mean, we just took pride in it, man. We put flags in every business. If you would see on the sidewalks, there would be little holes in front of the businesses. We had poles and flags, and we put those in there. My biggest memory of the Scouts was working Max Toy Fund. I loved that because you'd see all them kids when we were giving them food and toys, and it was a big part of my growing up. I saw what the other side was like too. I always thought that we had it rough and we were struggling, but then you see the other side, and that helped me a lot, especially teaching and coaching. I could understand the struggles of kids.
Was that Troop 6 or Troop 80?
I was in Troop 80, Bill Dixon, and it was at the United Methodist, I think. And he got sick or something like that, and then Albert Allen was his name, had the big Baptist church, and that was Troop 6, and that's where we went over there. But that was, we learned a lot. I learned a lot in scouting. It's helped me through life. It was.
You still remember the Boy Scout pledge or the motto, trustworthy, loyal, that kind of stuff?
Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, and brave.
Brave, clean, reverent.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I was a scout too, but I wasn't an Eagle. I didn't make it that far.
Yeah. And I even got my God and Country, and I was pinned. I did mine through the Greek Orthodox Church, and I was pinned by the Metropolitan Philip, which was a big deal. And
that was the Alpha Omega Award. They gave you an Alpha Omega Award, I think, in the Nicholas show.
Yeah, I forgot all about that, but I was one of the few in Greek Orthodox on the eastern side of the country. I mean, that was a big deal.
A lot of work.
It was a big deal, and to get pinned by the they had the Kafarian reunion. I think it was in Charleston, maybe, or it could have been in Huntington, but the Metropolitan Philip pinned me, which it'd be like a big archbishop type thing in the Catholic Church.
Yeah,
and that was a big deal.
Now, when you went to Woodrow, any teachers that might have influenced you over there?
Oh, absolutely. I had a public speaking teacher by the name of Miss Brown, and she would come in every Saturday with her son, and we would talk. And now this was from junior high then when I got to high school, but she still remembered me. And she knew that I opened up the restaurant with my dad at 6 o'clock. And when I would get to school, I had her first period. She'd let me go behind the stage and take a nap till second period. And Miss Slipkovich was across the hall from her, and she would always ask and check on me too, because she knew that she went to the Greek church, but she knew how I had to get up and work with my dad in the mornings.
Wow, that's
and it was they were a big part. And then Chick Munson, he was a big part. He had just started. He was my phys ed teacher, and a lot of times I'd be sunburned from working out in the garden. And a lot of times, man, he'd just say, "Hey, you just chill out today," because sometimes he'd sit there and peel the skin off my. You know how you get burnt and you peel, and he'd peel that skin off of me and just laugh. He said, "You ought to bring me some corn."
Well, when you graduated, how come you went to Glenville?
Well, I had some good friends, and
were you and Kathy seeing each other at that time?
No. There's an old girl named Patty Sparks. We're sitting on D wing on the radiators in the breezeway, and I said, I think I'm going to join the Navy. And the Vietnam War was still going on at that time. And she goes, Jerry, that may not be a very wise decision, because they get shot at too. Navy guys, And she goes, you don't have the best grades in the world, and you could end up in a place you don't want to be. And I started thinking about what she said, and I remember every day when I would come in from school, I had to wash dishes, but before I did that, my dad had the Life magazine laying on the meat block. He would show me the pictures of guys getting blown up over in Vietnam. Plus, we fed them leaving, and we fed the burial details coming back at our restaurant too. So I said, Patty, I said, you're probably right. I said, well, I'll give it a shot, because back then all state schools had to take you. They had to give you and they would give you a year to keep a C average and things like that. And I went up there, and it took us 4 hours to get to Glenville, because you didn't have the interstate then. And I got up there, and it was all country, and I think we had 1,200 students, and that counted commuters. And I just left Woodrow with 2,400 kids. I mean, it was, it was different. I liked it. And, our first meeting, they had a meeting with all the freshmen, and the chancellor, I can't remember his name now, said, our number one goal is to make sure you guys get educated. You young men and women get educated, and we get you a job. And I just said, man, this is where I need to be.
So you went into education.
Right.
That's what you were studying.
Right. Well, I went into, I used to sit on the counter all the time, and I'd see Joel Hicks driving by in that driver's ed car, and I said, man, that looks like a nice job to have. And that's what I ended up. I was phys ed and driver's ed. Then I went on and got my counseling, and ended up being a counselor.
What kind of music did you listen to when you were in high school?
I listened to the blues all the time.
Really?
I listened to the blues, and I listened to a lot of 50s and 60s, because my mom would listen to that, Bebopalula, and I'd always whistle. You remember old Mark Lilly, and he used to get a kick out of it, because we'd walk and I'd whistle, and he just was amazed how I could whistle. Now, since I've been playing the harmonica, I can't whistle, because my armature in my mouth has changed from playing a harmonica. My muscles have changed, but I like the blues.
Now, when you came back, when you graduated from Glenville State, I know one year you got involved with Babe Ruth. You was coaching the All-Star team or something.
I had, my mom got me a job, General Thompson, North Beckley sewer system down there.
Public service.
But yeah. And first day on the job, you see those big tanks that sewage goes in? Well, he had me painting those railings. Well, every 15 minutes, they would stir. I just said, hey, man, I got to get an education. And I told, he came in that evening after, because they were out digging ditch stuff, and I said, I've had enough, man. I can't do this. So we were over at the Babe Ruth Park. Jose Rodriguez and Bruce McDaniels and I were over there because his dad ran the park. He was a JP at that time. I forgot Mr. Rodriguez's first name.
That was Joe.
Joe.
Yeah.
And he goes, Greek, I need somebody to run this ballpark. Open up the concessions, cut the grass, line it, and umpire. And he goes, I'll give you $350 a month. $350 a month. I said, really? And I said, I'll take it. That's how I got involved in that. I'd go set up the concessions and cut the grass, line the fields, and umpire 2 games every night.
That's
and Odie Costali and Odell, Big Odell, they taught me. But both of them were really good umpires. And then Odie gave me all his equipment. I called a lot of high school ball up in Gilmer County. I did Gilmer County, St. Mary's, Williamstown, all those schools, country schools, Calhoun County.
I umpired over Babe Ruth one year when they had a shortage of umpires. They couldn't get anybody. And Sarge Maynard was running it. And I just did it to help him out and kids. And I think I got $8 a game or something. I'm not sure what it was, but I did it 1 year, and that's all I did. But
I did it for a while there. And my chest protector, I'd take it to the gas station and blow it up. It was a big. I just admire these guys umpiring now. I wouldn't get behind the plate like they do.
100-mile-an-hour fastballs.
I would not, and it comes faster when it's fouled off. I mean, I've had my face mask knocked off, and these were just junior high boys in Babe Ruth. But, I felt about that.
I think the worst I ever got hurt umpiring, I got hit on the foot. And I don't even know how it happened, but, man, I thought I broke my foot. I couldn't even walk for about 3 or 4 days. But, yeah, it's just one of them things. But now you started teaching at Coal City.
Yeah, what had happened is I got accepted to Morgantown, and I graduated on a Saturday from Glenville, and I went to Morgantown and started school that Monday. And I guess it was about the second week of summer school up there. I get a phone call from John Hartzog. He goes, Jerry, first he goes, are you behaving yourself? Then he goes, we're starting a new program in Raleigh County and elementary phys ed, and Glenville State College is the only school that has certified teachers for that. He goes, we're going to hire 18 of you. And he goes, we're going to give you, you can come down and pick your school you want or go visit the principal, see who you want to work for. And he goes, we're going to give you $10,000, which was a lot of money back in 1976. I was 21 at the time when I got hired. He goes, we're going to give you $10,000 to buy any type of equipment you want for your gym and stuff like that. And I thought, well, it'd be nice to have a car. And so me and Rick Vass, Wayne McNish, and God, I can't remember we all took the jobs, and but I went to Coal City. There was something about Coal City that I liked. I liked that part, and I'd never been to Coal City till I went over there and looked at the school, and it was an old schoolhouse, no gym, and the basketball goal was on an oak tree with no backboard. And I thought, this is where I want to go. And so I would carry a mat from room to room, a gym mat. We'd do tumbling, and then one day I had a couple of boys that wanted to wrestle. And I said, well, go ahead, man. Y'all can wrestle. And one thing led to another. And then they opened up the big school, and I had the largest grade school in the county at that time.
Wow. Yeah, I remember the first year we had a wrestling tournament through the YMCA youth. I was trying to get youth wrestling started. Yeah. And Coal City you guys won it. It was wild. We had 400 or 500 kids in that daggone thing.
You and Mel Hancock and myself got the Pee Wee program going in 1978.
Yeah, it was.
And I remember the tournament. because Diane was doing scorekeeping or something. I remember the table. We had it out at was it the high school maybe, the tournament? I don't remember, but
We had it at the high school, but we had the finals at Shady Spring. I had a tournament over there, and we had the youth finals before the high school, and it was jam packed. And I knew then. I told Mel, I said, I think this wrestling's going to go. I think it's going to work.
Well, the thing was good about it too is I had two good coaches over in Coal City. I had Frank Rakes was at the high school, and Charlie Mancuso was at Stokoe junior high. We had it going on.
Yeah,
I had some good little wrestlers.
Now, how long were you there before you went to Woodrow?
I was there 2 years. I ran into Vic Peelish somewhere, maybe at the grocery store, and he said, we're hiring a third driver's ed teacher at Woodrow. We got to have another one. And asked if I had a certification in. I said, yeah. So he said, well, you need to call Ross. That's when the principals could hire you. I mean, you still got appointed by the board, but the principals. Yeah. And I called up Hutch. Yeah, I remember you, Zaferatos. I remember chasing you through the halls. And he goes, you can have the job if you'll be an assistant coach in wrestling. We need a wrestling coach. I said, sure. I don't know anything about it. High school wrestling, I've said I've only messed with these little peewee guys. I said, well, come on out.
That's how
Gave me a job.
Before then, you married, y'all got married, didn't you and Kathy?
We got married in 77.
Okay.
June the 19th, 77. Yeah.
You've got two siblings?
Right. Uh-huh.
And Dennis and Bill?
Uh-huh.
There's an age gap between you guys, isn't there?
Yeah. I was an immigration baby.
Okay.
I mean, I literally was an immigration baby. My mother got pregnant, so she had to get married, and then my dad got caught, and then that's when she got pregnant. And then after that it was
good for him.
Mr. Lynch. Well, it cost some money. Mr. Lynch, above the Swan Cafe, was his lawyer. I don't know if you ever knew Mr. Lynch.
I know. Now, how much older than Dennis are you?
I'm 12 with Dennis and 14 with Bill.
Okay. So you was pretty well gone by the time they got old enough.
We were basically, the way I explain it to people, we're basically two different families. And my mom and dad were more like my brother and sister, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, how long did you coach? You ended up becoming the head coach at Woodrow. How long were you there as a head coach?
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know if it was about 7 or 8 years. I had quite a few state finishers and some state champs, and I won some regionals, Coalfields. I won a B&I one time, then Dix wouldn't let me back in it.
That 87 team was pretty good. I think they were like fourth in the state.
We had a good team. We would have won it, and we'd have won the state championship that year because Kevin Farley had beat the state champ and the state runner-up that year 2 weeks prior to that up in Fairmont. And Kevin got his shoulder dislocated. What we did is we added another, because I had a lot of guys sucking a lot of weight. I had big guys that were really pulling a lot of weight. And I told Rocky, who was my assistant coach at that time, I said, we need to get a match scheduled so we can get an extra pound going into the region. I said, these guys, they look like they were in concentration camps, man. And he dislocated his daggone shoulder that night. Still wrestled and scored for us in the state tournament. He was in a lot of pain, and the doctor from Cincinnati didn't want him wrestling. But his dad signed a waiver to let him wrestle because the kid wanted to wrestle. And, it cost us a state title. That dumb move that I made cost us a state title. And that's when I threw the towel in. I felt bad.
You were selling insurance around that time too, weren't you?
Well, it was 1983. I remember just like yesterday. We had applied to Morgantown to get our PhDs, and both of us got accepted and in counseling. And we started looking at the numbers because we didn't want to do clinicals. And I said, well, it's not worth the money. We got to pack up our kids. I think Kathy was pregnant at the time with our third one. I said, we got to move to Morgantown. I said, this is crazy. I said, I'm going to go talk to Bill Sigmund. I said, I'm going to get my insurance and real estate license. I said, I can make some money. And lo and behold, I started making a little bit of money selling real estate. And that's when I gave up coaching at that time for a while.
Now, I remember when you started United National.
United, it was the same thing as everything I've done. I've always went to workshops to learn how to do things. And it was an old country franchise. It was $1,700 for the franchise. And you got a week in Kansas City of pretty intense real estate training. It was really good training. It came with really good attorneys. Steptoe and Johnson was our attorneys for this company. So not only did we learn the business there, but we had attorneys teaching us things so we wouldn't make mistakes. And we started a lot of things here in our industry here. We're the ones that started the seller disclosure form, which is not a state law, but it protected the company. And name tags, I think we did name tags.
Well, I remember I took your class. You were teaching a class, and then the Plumley and Frog, and I'm not sure Pat Piercing was there at that time or not. But there was, you had a little house behind Little John's Sporting Goods.
Well, it was down. Yeah, it was going down the road a little bit. It was a palm reading house. You walked in. Right, yeah. You walked in, and you walked up the floor and went down the floor. When you first come in, it had 4 rooms in it. And what I did was just like coaching. I said, now, if you get this many listings and this many sales, I'll gravel the driveway, because our driveway was grass. And then I ended up getting it paved. Then I started growing a little bit, and I said, if you get this many listings and this many sales, I'll buy this office building down in Mapscott. And I did the same thing again. Then I bought Dr. Bliss's old building beside Kentucky Fried Chicken. Then I said, well, if y'all really get some listings and do this, I said, I'll buy the bank building beside Dunkin' Donuts, and I'll put a brand new building on the back. And that's when we really started doing real well in the business. It was funny. We were there spring break one day, and I looked at Kathy and I said, something's wrong with this picture. I said, nobody's working but us. And about that time, a guy walks in that I got licensed down in Princeton. I don't even remember his name now. Mike Hazelwood. Because I'm buying up all the ERA franchise around. He goes, would you be interested in selling? And I said, well, you'd have to buy the property and everything. He made me an offer. I said, it's yours with a no compete. And so I opened up a mom and pop shop. We got rid of all the headaches because, I had 35 agents. And now we keep it low keyed with, I guess we've got about 10 agents.
Are your kids involved in real estate?
Yeah. Amy and her husband, they run the business when we're gone in the wintertime. We work selling real estate in Florida in the wintertime. I got to get my bones can't take this cold weather.
Yeah.
Golly, Dino still does the appraisal business. He comes back and forth from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
And he's doing well down there with a 2S for West Virginia. But technology's so advanced now that we can, like he'll say, Dad, go out and take pictures and measure this house, get the information, and then I'll send it back to him, and he types it up, and then we'll proofread it and send it to the bank.
Yeah, it's technology's changed the real estate business a lot, and drones and all those things.
And it helps to have I've got some smart people working for me. We've always had sharp folks working for us, and Dino and Amy and her husband Justin Fairchild, they're sharp people, and it makes it a lot easier.
Now, you tried to get in politics one time, somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I did a couple times, and we know for a fact, after we looked at the stats, that I could have won if I'd have changed parties. And I had the other party approach me, but I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But, it was worth it to just see my dad. Congressman Rahal got my dad citizenship papers. And it was great to watch him vote for me. He went to the courthouse and got to vote for me, and he just was in seventh heaven.
Wow. That's
good. Never missed a day. Once he got that, he never missed a day of voting. He voted didn't matter what it was, he'd be there voting.
You had somewhere along the line, you guys decided to take I don't know who came up with this idea, but buy the old Calacinos. And when I was in the running club, we used to go up there on Thursday nights because Jimmy's place got too crowded. And we'd go up there on Thursdays, and Dominic Calacino would be sitting there watching a little black and white TV. And sometimes he'd be glad to see us, and sometimes he wouldn't, and we'd come in and spend an hour and a half hanging around, and he might cook a pizza, maybe or maybe not, but he was just, it was someplace to go. But who came up with that idea?
Wayne, I have always been a dreamer, and I've even heard people say, he's such a dreamer, being sarcastic because of the things I would do. And as a kid, I always wanted that building and that property, and I always wanted in real estate. And when I would buy or go into these businesses, Kathy would just scratch her head and say, "Are you kidding me?" But she was always the backbone. Like, I would come up with the ideas, I would come up with things I wanted to do, and she would take it and run with it. And Calacino's was our biggest one. The whole family got involved in that. Amy and Justin were getting ready to get married, and so she left West Virginia University to get him to go to Concord and finish his degree. So they both finished up their degree. And her business class set up our business format and the flow of the restaurant and our POS systems. And then Kathy worked with the accounts and got everything going. And again, we go to a workshop in Columbus to learn how to, I grew up in a restaurant, but I didn't grow up cooking pizzas. And we ended up buying a handcrafted pizza oven from the Nacelle brothers out of New Jersey. And we hooked up with a Pillsbury dough doctor that made the dough specifically for that oven. And then we took the front bar and made that the cooking area and put a bar on the other side there, but more dining type, because we had a lot of soccer mom. The schools really supported us. Fayette County, Fayette County and Wyoming County was a fourth of our business. And then Raleigh County, all the schools, we would supply them and feed them. And it just, and Kathy would get cards and have different type of things where we'd raise money for them. And it just, our business grew. Then we ended up adding a juke joint on the back. And that's when I got into playing the harmonica. And, it would just, we'd have Thursday night talk shows. I'd have area coaches come in and the radio would do it. And
well, tell us a little about how you got started with the harmonica.
I got started with the harmonica. There's a guy that would charge us $100 a night on a Friday night, and he would pack the place. Dave Runyon. Matter of fact, we had a big old banner that said the bar that Dave Runyon built. But it was more of an atmosphere for older folks, that are 50 and older. But we had some young folks come in. But Dave came in one afternoon to set up, and I said, "Do you know anybody that can teach me how to play his harmonica?" And he goes, "Well, Jerry, I do." He goes, he worked at the music store down at the mall, and he goes, "A guy just come in here from Chicago that played with Muddy Waters' son, Mud, out in Chicago for about 8 years. Orland Moses was his name, and he's from Nicholas County. He was a great fiddle player." And I took lessons for about a month. And he goes, "Man," he goes, "you got something here." He goes, "I think you need to go to Mississippi to this workshop." It was John Gindick's workshop in Mississippi, Clarksdale, Mississippi, where the blues began. And I went down there, and they called me the Whaler, because I'd whale on that thing. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was whaling on it. And they liked it. And I kept hearing them talk about this Grammy Award winner, a great harmonica player by the name of Jason Ritchie. So when I got back from the workshop down there, I called a guy up, man, and he was under house arrest in Indianapolis. And we played for about 6 months, and he was teaching me slowly and patiently. And then we got to talking, and I told him, I was a guidance counselor. I'd just retired and was running that bar. And he said had a few problems, and I introduced him to a local attorney in town. And one thing led to another, and this guy a couple of weeks later is playing in Belgium, and he's turning me on to all these great performers after that. I mean, I've played with some of the best. I played with James Cotton, Deke Harp.
That's amazing.
I played with Magic Dick, with Jay Giles' band. Madison Slim, who played with Muddy Waters. I can go on. I got name after name. And I played at Ground Zero in Clarksdale, Mississippi. I played at Reds, which has been on a lot of movies in Clarksdale. Played at the Blueberry Cafe. I played at the Boogie Bar in Nashville, which was one of my highlights. That was a big deal. And then I got a text from the guy through Facebook, Keith Wright or Kevin Wright, I forgot his name. He said, "Buddy, whatever stage I'm at," he says, "you're more than welcome to be on it." I thought, well, I'm slowly turning the corner there, because I'm not where I want to be, right now yet.
Well,
and that's just the way I am.
Hopefully you'll be around about 30 more years.
Well, if I can make it for another 5 years, I might be able to hit it. But it's a drug that I cannot put that thing down. Like I said, I was taking a shower this morning, and Jason Ritchie has free Fridays. He gets free lessons, and I got him playing while I'm getting ready.
Won't you, we're not in a studio, but won't you play us a tune if you would?
Well, let me see here. Let me see what I got. I'll play, how about a little bit of Amazing Grace?
That sounds good. That's great. Hey, now somewhere along the line you started playing golf.
Yeah, and I had
not as good as you do on the harmonica.
I had a local doctor say, "You know what? You got 2 jobs. You need to get a 3rd job and throw those clubs away." But that is something that just. I love it, but I can't play worth a crap.
You got a hole in one.
Well, I've got 2 of those.
Oh, do you?
But I used to play in the B&I tournament all the time. Now, I did win a flight one year, got second in a flight. But I would get these nasty letters. You're the sorriest golfer in Beckley. You're horrible. You're just horrible. You're embarrassment to Beckley, the high school, and they kept on. And I'd get these letters, and then one day I don't remember where I was at. Me and Dave Barksdale were just shooting a breeze, and that old sucker was writing them letters to me, man. Oh. Barksdale was busting my chops, man. And it was Dave Barksdale.
Alvador.
Oh yeah, we used to go at it. We'd play handball or racquetball. Me, him, and Jimmy Turner, and man, he was always in my case all the time.
Well, the one picture that I can remember of you playing golf, and it was in the B&I, and they're on the front page of the Beckley newspaper, Sports, got you coming out of the sand trap.
And the ball, and I've never come out of a sand trap like that, but I saw the photographer, and I remember, I said, man, I got to get out of here. And I remember sand was blowing up in the air, and the daggone ball landed up out of the hole there. Yeah, that was, I think it was a year Arnold Palmer may have retired. I don't remember. But I've got that picture somewhere. with him.
Well, you haven't been able to make a career out of it, but this is a good thing you can still play. That's the main thing. What's your favorite course?
Well, I got a lot of them, but
favorite local
my
favorite local.
I just enjoy Grandview. I like supporting Randy. He lets you play, and he's just good to the community, and I've always liked Grandview. I just like it. He keeps that course so groomed, Now
you've since then you've sold Calacino's, and you guys are still involved with real estate, like you said before. Of course, Calacino's is doing fine. The Weeks family owns it, and it's still the place to go. I mean, it's really something else. But you've got, how many grandkids you got now?
Got 6 of them.
6 of them. That requires a lot of time, I guess.
Well, we're running up and down the road, going to softball games, baseball games, wrestling matches, dancing, gymnastics, and birthdays. I mean, yeah, it's tough. Yeah,
makes it,
but
priceless.
Yeah, you can't beat it.
Jerry, I really appreciate you coming by and talking to me, and we'll have to do it again sometimes because we got some more stories. I haven't asked you everything.
Oh, I could tell you just on Main Street. I mean, you had Freddy's Restaurant, Payne's, Kid and Junior Shop, which Kathy's parents owned, Piggly Wiggly.
Back in the
Beckley Hotel. We didn't have a TV, so I'd sneak out of the restaurant and go across the street and watch TV at the hotel till they'd run me off. My favorite, though, was going to Quality Pastry. I'd have to go down there in the mornings to get donuts and stuff to sell at the restaurant. And those guys, was it the Mazzettis that owned that? It was Italian brothers. They'd always hook me up with a free donut. That was back in the days when
good.
Life was good.
Yeah.
Small community. And
will you come back and talk to us sometime?
Sure, be glad to. I got stories I can tell you.
Well, let's do it. And anybody else out there would like to be on our program, you can hit me up at awbennett50@gmail.com, and we'll get you on here. And until next time, remember, if you're not dead yet, you're not done yet. And this is Wayne Bennett, and God bless you.